voice in your ears and the face on your screen. I'm Perfect Pervis, and this is American Football in Finland. Today, I'm joined by my co-host, Q Floyd.
What's going on?
All right. The AFF podcast is available on Apple Podcasts, Google Play, Spotify, and wherever you listen to your podcast. Seriously, American Football in Finland is currently available on 25 platforms. Wherever you listen, be sure to rate us. Anything less than 5 stars will tell us that you are a hater. And I guess I got to add this on here too. We are on YouTube. This video goes up on YouTube. You can follow us on YouTube. Subscribe to the channel at American Football in Finland as well on there, okay? We doing everything this year, everything. So this is season 5. We really appreciate the online support we've been getting on social media. We just got over 1,000 followers during this last week. I think we're like 1,025 or something like that right now. So that's awesome, and we appreciate it. So we're going to keep this thing going. And before we even get into the show, Q, how was the weekend, man?
Oh, man, weekend was great, man. Another fun-filled, crazy football weekend. But, it was cool, man. Everything's good here, so it's all good.
Yeah, I actually got to spend some time with my daughter without being super tired myself. So, I ended up, being a little tired. But it was fun. It was fun. We saw some friends, and I didn't go to any of the games physically this weekend, and I'm glad I didn't. It wasn't worth it. Them 2 blowouts. I mean, I wasn't for to travel all the way to Wasa. No offense, Royals, but glad y'all did what y'all did. So I think it was a good weekend all in all. So let's get into it. All right. So it's that time, man. Let's get it off our chest. What do you want to get off your chest today, Q?
Oh, man, what I want to get off my chest today is, can anybody in the Maple League consistently kick extra points?
Right.
Well, I won't say field goals because I don't expect that, but extra points, oh my gosh. Like, I've watched so many just, like, it's not even the kick. It's just the blocking. It's like nobody just even cared about the extra points. Like, most of these teams, if they score, you can guarantee that somebody's going to miss the extra point. That's how I feel now when I watch. Like, it's just becoming ridiculous, I think. So that's something I think they really need to work on because it's a lot of these games are starting to be like blowouts, but still, those points you're taking off the board. So that was on my mind all day yesterday. Just like, can somebody just please kick extra points, please?
I want to piggyback on this. I like it when we upset about the same thing. Damn extra points. The crazy part is that it's not one of them like insignificant things in this league. You have games where these extra points come into factors. That Crocodiles-Royals game, if the Crocodiles can make extra points, they're tied in that game, and it looks totally different going into the last stretch. It looks totally different, and the Royals maybe aren't forced to make a big play to get up by a touchdown, and then they're only up by a touchdown instead of being up by 10. Like, they missed 3 extra point attempts, so there you go. They're down by a field goal, and they missed a field goal. But still, all they have to do is kick an extra point. Same thing with one of the teams scoring the most touchdowns, the Kuopio Steelers. Their one game this season, they missed 6 extra points and only won by a touchdown. They should have won by 2 against the Roosters, but they left 6 points on the board from extra points because they scored 7 times, which, they always do, and they scored 10 times last game. But every game, somebody missed an extra point. Here at AFF, we keep up with the scores. We be updating y'all on the scores, on the Instagram. We got to do a little editing and putting scores. A team scores, and you get the little graphic ready. You put 7, and then they missed the extra point. You got to change the graphic, put the 6, and upload it, man. Ooh, I'm asking my social media guys, like, are we uploading the scores? And the dude say, I got to wait because, you don't know if they're going to make the extra points or not. So the news not getting out that fast because everybody holding their fingers on the button like, do I press it? Do I save it? Are they going to make the extra point? And that's ridiculous. This is supposed to be the top league in Europe this year, and people aren't doing special teams. They're not making them special. And outside of just kicking it, a lot of it isn't even like the kickers. The kickers are decent, but the guy snapping it, he's not a deep snapper. Or if the guy holding it, it's not really his job to hold it. Like, looking at the Crocodiles, a lot of their snaps were super high. And Timmy Thomas had to be, like, acrobatic just to get them down. There's no way you're going to get those kicks off. But other teams like the Steelers, their snaps are fine, but they're getting them blocked. They're letting people through on the field goal. Same thing with the Wolverines, letting people in on the block. Like, practice special teams. I know it's Finland, but practice special teams. That's all it is. Even if you look at like kickoff returns and stuff, now I'm getting even broader. Special teams are avoided. People are giving up all kind of yards on returns and kicks because they're not practicing that. I don't want to hear nothing about, well, it's a short season. We know this has always been a problem. But it's just looking really big this season when every game is potentially a playoff game and people are leaving 3, 4, 5 points out there. Or more like 3, 4 for most teams, 6 or more for the Steelers because they're scoring so much. But there's a lot of points being left out there. It's going to be hard to pick anybody for the all-star team on the special team. We might not even do it. You know, we might not even do it because y'all don't deserve it. Y'all don't deserve it. Nobody doing special teams out here. All right, it's off my chest. I went on long. I'm sorry. I wasn't even that upset about it, but started talking about it, I got into it. All right, now we got our players of the week presented by our sponsors, Rare Athletics. Also presented by Perfect Pervis because I put in on some of these gifts that we're getting to these players. But first up, let's do the offensive player. Who do we have, Q?
Offensive player of the week, none other than Mr. Christian Powell. I'm speechless right now because I'm trying to think of some words to describe what he does like consistently when the ball's in his hand. He had 25 rushes, 352 yards, 3 touchdowns, 409 total yards.
409.
Right. 409 total yards from one person.
One person.
Yeah, you heard it right. Like Christian Powell is lighting the Maple League up again. I'll say again because he's consistently been doing that. But
he got to be MVP
said,
right now, right? He got to be right now. MVP race.
Yeah. Like right now, I was just about to say that. Right now, he's like my top candidate for MVP right now. Like because we seen another running back put up some crazy numbers last week, but this dude is like you just never know what Christian Powell gonna do. I'll just say that you just never know what he's gonna do. But player of the week, offense definitely goes to him.
Man, that's awesome. And then on the defensive side, we're going to go with defensive lineman from the Wasa Royals, Carlos Carrasco, the Spaniard. He had 6.5 tackles, 2 tackles for loss, 1 sack, and 1 forced fumble against the Crocodiles. Awesome thing about this guy is he's in the trenches every week. And, it's hard to really stand out, but he was in the backfield so much, which is very hard to do when you're going against a Christian Powell type of runner. And obviously the defense itself gave up some yards, but a lot of that was downfield. But up front, the Royals really controlled the line of scrimmage, and Carlos was a major reason. He made a lot of plays and kind of dictated that the other team actually would have to run away from him in this game. So big ups to Carlos Carrasco, Defensive Player of the Week. All right, let's go inside the numbers and show you some key team stats from this weekend. Q, you got it first.
All right, so we're going to start off with the Helsinki Roosters against the Port Boone Butchers. The Roosters had 528 total yards, 0 turnovers. They scored 14 points off of turnovers, and they never punted the whole game. So that's great right there for offensive coordinator. That's amazing right there. The Roosters is definitely playing like the Roosters that everybody know, and it obviously showed from the stats. I mean, they pretty much dominated this whole game. The Butchers, they were 4 and 13 on third downs, and they were 1 and 5 on fourth downs and 3 turnovers. You can't play against a team like the Helsinki Roosters with those type of turnovers and those type of statistics. Just period. I mean, like you're not giving yourself a chance if you can't continue drives, you can't get first downs, and they paid dearly for it. And the Helsinki Wolverines, deserved to win that game.
Yeah, second game, Seinäjoki Crocodiles versus Wasa Royals. Royals got the win, hard-fought game, but the Crocodiles outgained the Royals, 482 yards to 430. The Crocodiles had 2 turnovers compared to the Royals' 1 turnover, and the Royals scored 7 points off of turnovers. which was the difference in the game. Pretty much was one score. The Crocodiles missed 3 extra point tries, like I said earlier. Only one kick. They missed one kick, and then they went for 2, I think, twice. But they also missed an extra point. Not an extra point, but actual field goal in this game. So that was a 45-yarder that they missed. So for them, the turnovers and missed extra points kind of were the difference, because you got 7 points from turnovers, 3 extra points, and a field goal. That's 13 points they could have had, and they lost by 10. Interesting.
And then we got the
go ahead. Sorry.
Then we got the Kuopio Steelers and the Helsinki Wolverines. The Steelers had 508 total yards to the Wolverines, 107. The Wolverines had negative 17 rushing yards.
Hold on. Repeat that. How many rush yards?
Negative 17 rushing yards. That's real bad. If you watch the game, you can understand why. Kuopio stacked on defense. The Wolverines don't really have a running game besides the quarterback Fortier. So that's just a terrible stat to have anyway. But the Wolverines also had 4 turnovers. 3 of them was interceptions. To the Steelers, 0. The Steelers scored 28 points off of turnovers.
So
that's almost every turn. Yeah, pretty much every turnover. That's crazy. So that's what you want to do. I think as a defensive coordinator, you're excited about their offense. Definitely a great stat for them. So that's what you had from the Kuopio Steelers and the Wolverines.
All right, man. That's your inside the numbers from week 3 in the Maple League. All right, so in case you missed it, there were some great performances in week 3 of the Maple League. In the first game of Roosters against the Porvoo Butchers, the Roosters running back committee, they had 3 guys running the ball in this game. They had 13 rushes, 93 yards, and 2 touchdowns. And that's two weeks in a row that the Roosters have done running back by committee and put up almost 100 yards rushing and scores with it. So they miss Kari, obviously, but they've figured out a system that works for them right now to help them try to finish strong. Miro Cadmary was 18 for 24. 18 for 24, 75% completion rate, 347 yards, 6 touchdowns. He was owned one. And
Miro.
And his top receiver of the day, Artu Erikola, had 7 receptions, 121 yards, 4 touchdowns. And then the other receiver, Alex Wasseljeff, 6 receptions, 116 yards, 2 touchdowns. That's 2 Finnish guys putting up numbers for Miro this week. For the Butchers, they had, one great performance as they usually do from Jabari Harris. He had 136 pass yards, 2 touchdowns, and then another 127 rush yards. Unfortunately, he was sacked 3 times in this game. But defensively for the Roosters, Laurie Aho played defensive tackle in this game, had 5.5 tackles, 2 tackles for loss. Just watching him personally, he really held down the middle for that team and really prevented the Butchers from being able to get any type of run game going outside of Jabari scrambling. Also, on the defensive line, you had Cameron Gruel, the French guy. He had 3 tackles, 2.5 tackles for loss, 1.5 sack. Interesting thing, and I'm talking about it now instead of later, is they put Cam at defensive tackle, at nose and 3 technique sometimes, and his speed was too much for the Butchers' offensive line. Like he just shot through the line, almost untouched, right up the middle, and made a lot of big plays. That's why his stats were so good. And lastly, for the Roosters, Ville Valtteri Soinen, my boy, the safety, had 5 tackles, 2 interceptions, 3 pass breakups, and half a sack. He was active. Let's just say he was active because he did his thing on the back end with the PBUs and the interceptions, but he also blitzed a few times and was able to get half a sack. He went in there, both sides of the ball. He was everywhere for the Roosters. So that's some of your top performances from the Roosters and Porvoo game.
All right, and then you got Brandon Gwinnett from the Boston Royals. And, he was 16 of 22, 73% passer rating, 250 yards. He threw for 4 touchdowns. Nico Peterson, one of his one of the elite receivers and DBs for the Royals. He had 8 receptions, 102 yards, 2 touchdowns. And then the one and only Alpha July, Alpha the Juice Man.
The
He had
Juice
5
Man.
receptions, 129 yards, and 2 touchdowns. So Alpha had another great game. Then you had who else we got on here? You got Yasker Varden, 9 tackles, 2 tackles for loss. Again, like he had a great game. There you go.
Yeah, last game you got the blowout fashion, Steelers versus Wolverines. Seth Peters was 21 for 28, 75% completion, 366 yards, 7 touchdowns. I think that doesn't that tie like Miro's record from last season with the 7 touchdowns? It's
Probably,
up there.
yeah.
That's amazing. I'm pretty sure that's like an in-game record, 7 touchdowns. It's either first or second, something like that. Maybe Rojo had 8 one time. Who knows? But on the receiving side for the Steelers, you got Tino Ndongo has 7 receptions, 180 yards, 5 touchdowns. Now let's do some quick math. He caught 7 passes, and 5 of them were touchdowns. I don't know the percentage, but that's a very high touchdown percentage. That's kind of crazy. Most people catch 10 passes and not score at all. This guy caught 7, and 5 of them went to the house. And had 180 yards, like very long catches for the most part, too, on those touchdowns. And then you have Josh Vanderweerd, who also had 9 receptions, 92 yards, 1 touchdown. He's kind of stepping up as the possession type receiver for this team. He gets a lot of volume catches. And, I mean, it's not like he's getting really short yards or anything, but he's more of the, 7, 8 yard catch guy, might get a 20 here, but Tino's the big down the field threat. And for the Wolverines, I think the lone bright spot for them in this game was young linebacker Willie Lindfors. Had 5 tackles, 1 forced fumble, which they didn't recover, but if they would have, it would have been very inspiring for them in this game. This linebacker, he didn't play last week for them. He had to go, I think he was in the Army or something like that. But he's really showing up in his second year in the Maple League, and he's something – for the Wolverines to look at in the future is, hey, we might actually have like a decent linebacker who's homegrown talent, because he was everywhere in that game. Obviously, he couldn't stop anything, but he was around most of the plays when they did have great plays on defense. And that is, in case you missed it, that's some of the best performances from players in the Maple League, Week 3, man. All right, Week 3, we got another victim. Somebody got Coach Q shaking his head. Q, tell us about it.
Oh, man, Coach Q's bruh moment of the week is coming from the Helsinki Roosters and the Porvoo Butchers game. We got the young bull, Ollie Leivinen, is running through Albert Altonen. I love the heart. I love it, but you got to come a little stronger than that. Nah, bruh, that ain't gonna do it. That ain't gonna do it right there. But hey, no, it's all love. But this is the bruh moment of the week.
All right, so in other news, talking about football outside of the Maple League, in the Division 1 here in Finland, the Kotka Eagles beat the Pori Bears 43-0. The Tampere Saints beat the UNC Crusaders 52-42, and the Rovaniemi Nordmen beat the East City Giants 14-6. Very interesting games. The Tampere Saints game was a little surprising to me. I didn't watch it, obviously, but I kind of thought the Crusaders and the Eagles were kind of going to run away with this league, but apparently the Saints not letting that happen. But on the women's side, the Tampere Saints with another win, 14-0 against the Helsinki Wolverine ladies. There's another game for this week. Is going to be played on Monday, which is a weird time, but that's when they're going to play it, is on Monday. It's going to be the Turku Trojans versus the West Coast Phoenix. And next week, the women's league is going to get into their playoffs, 14 playoffs. So they have next week, they have playoffs first round. And I think a week or 2 weeks later is the championship and third place games are played the same weekend. I could be wrong about that. Don't take my word for that about the women's playoff schedule. We'll update you next week. Football in Europe. there was football played in Denmark, Switzerland, and the Czech Republic this weekend. Matter of fact, while we're recording this, I think there's about to be another game in the Czech Republic this weekend. There's like 2 more games this weekend. But in Denmark, the Copenhagen Towers beat the Sollerod Gold Diggers 29-26. And just to give you a little bit of Finnish background, young Mikko, why can't I remember his last name? He normally plays center for the Roosters. I can't remember your last name, Mikko, but he's out there playing for the Sollerod Gold Diggers right now, representing Suomi out there. But they took a tough loss this weekend. In Switzerland, the Calanda Broncos beat the St. Gallen Bears 47-7. And head coach Jeff Buffum, I want to say he's like 44, 45 years old, came out of retirement to play quarterback for the Calanda Broncos. And he said he had a good time. So that's interesting. And in the Czech Republic, there was 2 games played. The Pilsen Patriots beat the Prague Mustangs 41-21, and the Brno Singers beat the Brno Alligators 26-7. And that's football in Europe, man. We cover it all. All right, win or loss. First game of the weekend, Helsinki Roosters destroyed the Porvoo Butchers. Q, do you think the Roosters won or the Butchers lost this one?
No, Roosters definitely won this game. They were clicking on all cylinders, man. Defensively, they looked good. Offensive, they was in a nice rhythm. Miro was getting the ball to all his receivers. The run game was working good by committee. The Roosters definitely won this game.
Yeah, I agree with you wholeheartedly. I think this was a very good statement game for them. They really came out there and said, hey, we're going to put it on you, and we're not holding back. Now, I will say I did not care for the scoring at the end of the first half when they had 50-something seconds and they decided to throw fades and get an extra touchdown in on a team that they were already beating by 30 points. I did not care for that, but I'm assuming, and I really hope that they were doing that because they're trying to, have enough points to get into the playoffs later. But personally, I did not like how the Roosters did that. I felt it was a little disrespectful to the game and to their opponents to do that right before the half. But they definitely won the game. So win or loss, talking about the Royals defeating the Seinäjoki Crocodiles. What were you thinking, Q?
I picked the Crocs to win this game. I know the Royals probably like, man, he pick against us all the time, but I really don't. But I thought the Crocodiles were going to win this game. If you look at the stats, the Crocs outgained them. Individually, I think Christian Powell like pretty much almost won that game individually. He had help, but just not enough to finish it off. But I give it to the Royals. They did everything they needed to do to win the game, and you had Alpha going off again. So, but I still think the Crocs lost that game.
I think the Crocs lost too, and no disrespect to the Royals. Also, I picked the Crocodiles to win this game. But before any Royals come and attack me online, I would just like to, say out of, defending myself, I picked the Crocodiles to win because I picked both the Royals and the Crocodiles to make the playoffs. The Royals had already won 2 games, so they're kind of clinched a playoff spot. The Crocodiles needed a second win. So for them to win, that would mean that both of them would be in the playoffs, which is what I was hoping for. That's why I picked them. But honestly, going into the game, I thought that the Royals were going to be the better team. But watching the game, I kind of feel the same way as what I expected, that I think the Royals are the better team, but I think the Crocodiles can beat them. And I think that they should have beat them in this game. Like you said, Christian Powell single-handedly. This dude had 400 yards by himself. The fact that this team didn't win is on everybody else. And I know that sounds kind of harsh to anybody that played well. I mean, Alex Germany stripping that ball from Alpha Jallo at the goal line. That was clutch. The only problem is y'all fumbled the ball right afterwards. So it didn't change anything in the score. In this game, take away those 3 extra points. If you make those 3 extra points throughout the game, it's tied with 2 minutes left in the game, and the Royals had a ball. totally different atmosphere for the Royals over the fact that in the actual game, they're up by 3 and they had the ball. So they took a shot and it worked out for them and Alpha scored the game-winning touchdown. But if you're tied at that point, they're not thinking, okay, let's just take a shot. They're thinking, how can we meticulously move the ball, get in field goal range, and win this game, which gives your defense a better chance of staying on the field and maybe creating something. So stuff like that is why I think the Crocodiles really lost this game. And I say this with a heavy heart. The Crocodiles are one quarterback away from being a top 2 or 3 team because legitimately we can say right now, Kuopio is the best looking team. Royals are second. The Crocodiles are third, but they could be second easily if they had a quarterback capable of getting them the plays they needed when they needed them. You can have Christian Powell run for 400 yards, basically get 400 yards of all-purpose in this game, but when they needed plays in the passing game, they were not there. There was a couple plays, Timmy Thomas, Nathaniel Robitaille, they made plays when they could, but there was a lot of plays left out there where Spencer Cutland threw the ball into the dirt, or the receiver had to dive for the ball and couldn't catch it and run because of the bad placement of it. And it's not a knock on Spencer as an athlete, but as a quarterback, he doesn't have the skill set to make those very simple plays they were sometimes. Even a simple bubble route or even a swing route to the running back were inaccurate, balls in the ground, and it costs you plays. And in a game like this where literally I think 3 points really was the difference in this game, it could have been the difference between them winning and losing was having a capable quarterback of making these simple reads and throws. They have the offense set up where Christian Powell is a man amongst boys. So you don't need a aerial assault to win with this team, but you do need somebody that can manage the game at a basic quarterback level, and Spencer Cutland isn't that right now. And that's why they lost. I think they really lost because they're going into these games each week handicapped, one hand tied behind their back by not having a serviceable quarterback. And it's really a shame because I really feel like they were the better team in this game. They should have been the team that won, but it is what it is. Congratulations, Royals.
And then we got the third game of the week, the weekend, the Steelers versus Wolverines. Pervis, what do you think? Did the Steelers win this game or the Wolverines lost it?
Look, someone sent me a message on Facebook earlier and asked me what I thought about this game, and I sent them back the little Kevin Hart gif. They weren't ready because they weren't ready. No. That's all it really was. Like, I want to talk so much about what the Steelers did because they went out there and won. They put it on them, put up 70. Kudos. I think last year my question was, can you score more points? I think the Roosters got a 50 burger with cheese because they had 60. If anything, the Steelers had a 50 burger with cheese, bacon, onions, lettuce, tomato, all the way, triple patty, and a side of fries and a large Coke. They had a full meal out there. That's what they did. They put up all the points you could. They scored 10 touchdowns, put up 70. Like, that's a lot of points to score on somebody. But the Wolverines never really had a chance. From the beginning of this game, it looked like they were just the lesser team, and they never responded at any point. Early in the game, when Sebastian Sane got that long touchdown pass, you're thinking, okay, we got to fight. And that's the last we heard of him. Like, that was it. And that's no knock on him, but that's just the way the game went for the Wolverines. They never really were in it. But kudos to the Steelers, man. I loved everything they did. Their defense looked dominant. A.J. Whitland made a huge difference.
Yeah.
I honestly feel like having him and as well as having Max DeFalcus at safety, that defense looks so different than week one. And even week one, it was decent, but it gave up a lot of points. The Wolverines had no chance. They only had 100 yards total, negative 17 rushing, and this defensive front was everywhere. I'm trying to remember everybody's name. You had Yanni Lindquist, you had Big Sharp, Pinheiro in there, Cadell King, Simi Raji, Timmy Tuomanen. Everybody was making plays. Like, everybody on his defense. Of course, A.J. Wentland. You dropped the interception, though, A.J. He hit you in the hands with that. Yeah, calling you out. But other than that, like, this front was everywhere, and they were making all the plays. And it was really impressive to see, for probably the first time this season, a defense play defense. That's how I feel about it. What about you?
I think the same thing. I mean, Scorpio was balling, man. You can see that defense was like, they was all over the place. They was running to the ball. Like, they looked like a well-coached oil machine defensively. Like, that's what you want. Like we said earlier in the season, it didn't look like a lot of people were focusing on their defense. They was just more offensive heavy. Everybody was kind of offensive heavy when they was doing their signings. And Scorpio did both. They already had some stuff on offense, so what they did is they padded up their defense, and now it's paying off. They look like, I mean, it's the best defensive game I've seen so far. Just pure dominance. And then, like you said, A.J. Wentland out there looking like a land shark for real. That dude is active. He's active out there. And I think when you got that type of energy at your linebacker position, it makes everybody else comfortable. Everybody else feeds off of it. And it just showed in that game. The Wolverines just didn't have enough, or, they didn't have anything, besides the long touchdown pass. Like, other than that, it was a dominant game.
Yeah. So Steelers definitely won that one.
Steelers definitely won that game.
All right, let's ask the tough questions for these teams going into week 4. Playoff implications pretty much in every game. First game we got is going to be the Wolverines versus the Butchers. What is a question you have for the Wolverines that need to be answered this week, Q?
I think the Wolverines really need to show now what team are they going to try to bring into the playoffs. They need another win right now to get in a rhythm, definitely. So I need to know from the Wolverines, are you going to be the team that paper-wise says you can be, or are you going to keep having these inconsistent games where sometimes you putting up a lot of numbers and the offense looks okay, and then this past game, it was just, we're just going to try whatever we can type of thing. So my question to the Wolverines in this upcoming game, are you going to get a solidified win and a dominant one?
Yeah, and I'll talk about the Butchers in this game. My question to the Butchers, it's a simple one. Can you win in the Maple League? 3 weeks, no wins. This is another opportunity. We saw a Wolverines team on Saturday that looks beatable, looks very beatable. So this is your opportunity. I think the Butchers missed their best opportunity to get a win was week 1, and they gave up a 21-point lead. So obviously we don't want to see that, but they haven't put together a full 4-quarter game. And the Wolverines are a team that also hasn't put together a full 4-quarter game. So this could be the perfect storm for them. And I don't know about the exact playoff implications, but from my understanding, the Butchers could, slide into it by winning these last 2 games, because they would ruin records for some of these other teams that are in the playoff hunt. So can you win in the Maple League? That's all I want to know from you. So moving to the second game of the weekend, we got the Roosters versus the Royals. What is the question you have for the Helsinki Roosters?
My question for the Helsinki Roosters would probably be, are you ready to show that Roosters football that we just seen them, put on this past weekend? Are they ready to do that against Wasa? Now, I think Wasa the Royals are going to be – this game is going to be a pretty interesting game. Because the matchups, I feel like the Roosters have everything to beat the Royals. But I also feel like offensively, the Roosters have an advantage. I think it'll be hard for the Royals to match up against the Roosters offense. So my question would be to the Roosters, are we going to see the dominant Rooster team as a whole? Or we're going to get one of those, that the first Scorpio game type of situations, like, or are you going to be, putting up stats but also giving up a lot? So my question to the Roosters would be like, are you going to come in and dominate this Royals team, or are we going to have a shootout?
Yeah, that makes sense. For the Royals, I'm going to ask, are you for real? I know it seems a little late to be asking that for a team that's 3-0, but look at the three teams you beat. You beat three teams that we don't really see much from. You beat the Butchers, you beat the Crocs, and who else did they beat? I'm trying to remember. Butchers, Crocs. Who else did they beat?
Man, who did they play? They played it. So did they? No, they didn't beat the Wolverines, did they? Did they beat the Wolverines?
Yeah, they did beat the Wolverines. That's who it was.
Yeah, Wolverines. Yeah,
sorry.
Yeah.
Well, anyways, you beat three teams that we're not, saying they're really that great. Anyways, there's three teams that we think are borderline bubble. But now you're playing the Roosters, who we're not sure if they're great either. But are you for real? Because this is the type of game where a team that's already clinched a playoff berth could say, okay, let's take it easy and try not to go full tilt against the Roosters, who don't look like the best team in the league anymore anyways. I would call that problematic because I don't care if you won 3 games or not. You haven't proven you're the best team until you've beaten everybody. And the Roosters are another team. And we've seen the Royals play games, the first 2 games of the season, where actually all 3 of their games, you could say that they didn't play a full 4 quarters. Even in this last game, they won technically, but there was times where it looked like they probably should have lost this game. The first 2 games, they waited until the second half to actually play. We know that you cannot do that type of stuff against the Roosters. I don't care if they only got 1 win. They're still who they are. They're not a team that you can take lightly. So I want to know, are the Royals for real? We put you on this pedestal now. You're 3-0. We said you're the second best team in the league. Now, a lot of teams this year, when we say you're good, they go and fuck it off. Sorry for that language. They go and fuck it off. And then we over here fighting all the trolls online about what's really going on. So, Royals, are you for real? Are you committed to going to the last week of the season at 4-0 and then saying, okay, Steelers, let's go? Not looking too far in the future, but in this game, you have to beat the Roosters to show us that you are for real. I'm probably going to pick y'all this week, though. I'm definitely going to pick y'all.
And to piggyback off of kind of what you're saying,
yeah.
What I want to know from the Royals are like you said, are they for real? I think they have that it factor when it comes to these games, and that comes from like they're just culture. They just fight, like no matter what, they fight. Yeah. They play hard. But if they win this game, that's pretty much first round home game for the playoffs. If they win this game, I believe. Yeah. So this is a clincher. This is a clincher for the Royals. Like, and that is big. If anybody that hasn't been to Finland and know the distance of going to play in Wasa, like a team, they're pretty much going to have to go the day before just to get in, just to play that game. So I think this is a real important game. It'll probably be the best game of the weekend in my eyes. So the Royals definitely are like you said, are you for real? Like, are they ready to? And they're not even stacked. Like the Royals aren't even stacked import wise. Like they're not even stacked like that. They just got the imports that they do have are super important, and they show up when they need them to. And that's what you bring imports in for, not to be average. And the Royals have above average imports. So
yeah, definitely probably the best import group so far.
Yeah,
I mean, not counting the Steelers. I feel like Steelers have so many that it's not as hard for them. But anyways, last game, we got the Crocodiles versus the Steelers. What's the question you want to see a Crocodiles answer?
Are you going to get another win? Are you going to get another win? This is going to be a tough one for them. This is going to be a tough one for them. Like, what plan do they have for this? Although I think talent-wise, they kind of equal talent-wise as far as imports, as far as local, like, not I would say local players, but I say as far as imports, the imports are going to have to really show up on both sides of the ball for the Crocs this game. And not just show up, but they're going to have some major effects on this game. And the Crocs, the question I have for them really is, can you upset them in this game? Because that's the answer. It ain't more so of can you win the game. It's just I think everybody's probably picking Scorpio to win this game. So what are you gonna do?
I was sitting there trying to think of a question for the Steelers. I'm like, it's just a tough one. I mean, I think again, all the pressure is going to be on the Crocodiles, but for the Steelers going into this game, I guess my question would be, are you do you it's hard to say it. Are we trying to pad stats or are we trying to develop? I want to know if that's what you're trying to do in this game. Obviously, you're going to have your starters out there. It's still too early to say, oh, well, we already clinched home field. You got to win at least 4 games to clinch home field. But I feel like this is one of them. I think this is going to be a similar game to what we saw with the Wolverines. I don't think that the Crocodiles defense can handle this offense. I think their offense might be able to do some things, and I think this is probably going to be Christian Powell's toughest test outside of that week 1 shenanigans. But my question for the Steelers would be is, in this game, you're going to get ahead. You're going to get ahead by a lot, in my opinion. Are you going to, just put your foot on their throat and just keep putting up stats offensively and then leaving all your starters in defensively so they can get their stats? Or are you sprinkling in younger guys? Are you trying to develop some guys so that when the playoffs come, there's some no names that we don't know that can show up and have that confidence to help you, win the Maple Bowl? So that's my question: is this going to be one of those stat games, or am I going to see some fresh faces in the game contributing as you try to work them into the mix going into the playoff stretch? I feel like that's a tough question. So
yeah,
definitely gonna be a tough question. Okay, so the Maple League is back on Thursday with the Wolverines traveling to the Butchers. Then the Roosters are going to host the Royals on Friday, and the Crocodiles have the Steelers on Saturday. Our football panel, we pick the winners each week on the Instagram account at American Football in Finland. Feel free to find us in the comments with your thoughts. Right now, I am in first place at 6-3, and it's a very short lead because everybody else is 5-4. It's always close, so it could go any way. I think Coach Tuomas and the Finnish Swami were 3-0 last week, and I think me and Q were both 2-1. And I think this week, I'm pretty sure we're all going to have the same picks. Just looking at it right now. Unless somebody decides to be crazy, I think we're all going to have the same picks, which means I'm winning.
I don't know.
That's all I'm trying to do.
I don't know if we're going to have the same picks this week, though. I don't know. I think that Roosters and Royals game, it might be some splitting in there probably.
You think so? Well, that's on you. Well, yeah. I don't know. I can't pick against the Royals because I picked against them last week. They're going to be upset at me out there.
Every time that I pick against the Royals, they win.
Okay, so we got 2 weeks left of games, but let's talk about, playoff implications. Right now, the Steelers are 3-0, the Royals are 3-0, and then you have Wolverines, Crocs, Roosters, all 1-2. So let's just say for parity, those top 2 teams, they're going to make the playoffs. Even if they go 3-2, they're going to make the playoffs. Let's just assume that those 2 teams are going. So you got 3 teams trying to get 2 spots. How do you think it's going to play out? We got Butchers versus Wolverines. So let's just play devil's advocate and say that that's one game the Wolverines can win. And then you got Roosters versus Royals, Crocs versus Steelers. Let's just assume that they both lose. Just say the better team is going to always win. And so that means next week the Wolverines are 2-2, and then the Crocs and Roosters are both 1-3. And then you'll have, for that last weekend of games, you're going to have the Wolverines and the Roosters, which means if the Roosters beat them, then they'll both be 2-3. And then you have the Crocodiles and the Butchers. and let's just assume the Crocodiles going to beat the Butchers like everybody else, then they'll be 2 and 3. And I don't care about the Steelers Royals, but just assuming if my thought is that the Wolverines, Crocodiles, and the Roosters are all going to be 2 and 3. I don't know how the playoffs work in this system. So I really don't. But I know that like right now at the 1 and 2, I mean the list says Wolverines, Crocs, Roosters. I don't know if that has anything to do with like which wins or losses they had or what. But I do know that out of all 3 teams, the Roosters are the only team with a positive points for and points against. And then the Crocodiles are -5 and the Wolverines like -80 because they just got blown out craziness.
Yeah.
So just looking at the implications, we could be looking at a 3-way go for playoffs going into the last weekend. That's just thoughts we're just putting out there in the universe in case anybody else want to float them back to us. But what do you think about like the playoff picture, what it looks like right now?
Man, it's crazy that it's so open in them spots right now.
Yeah.
Because it's definitely going different for the Roosters. Because I think a lot of people expect them to kind of, always be in the top 2 teams. And but I do feel like if the Roosters, I won't say if, this is crazy that I even have to say that, if they will probably, they're like, I'm going to say if the Roosters make the playoffs, if they make the playoffs, which I've never really had to say before in this situation, I think they're going to be a different team come playoff. They probably get Kari back. Some of the other guys that have been kind of hurt, I think they'll play. Nico Quick. I just think they're more versed in this. I feel like they'll get the nod to play. If some kind of way, I don't know how they're going to make the decision. If it plays out the way that you said, I feel like the Roosters, they're not going to leave the Roosters out of this playoffs. Like I just don't. I think they've just been around too long, and I think like you say, they'll have to explain how they made the choice. So, or maybe they thought, I don't know if they counted as like better wins or more impressive wins, and maybe that's why the Roosters was trying to try to score. Yeah. So, but like you said, we'll find out after this week, this upcoming week. We'll find out.
After week 4, like it's gonna be crazy figuring out what's going on. So we just will do a little update and see what the playoff picture kind of looks like. All right, so that's it for this episode of American Football in Finland. Hope it was worth the listen and the watch. Q, any last words before we go?
No, I'm just excited about the upcoming week, man. And I wish everybody good luck and be safe.
All right, so if you enjoy the show, please follow us on Apple Podcasts, Google Play, or wherever you get your podcasts. And don't forget to rate us 5 stars as well. Anything less tells us you're a hater. You can follow us on the Gram and Facebook at American Football in Finland. Also, we're on YouTube now, so go subscribe to the channel, American Football in Finland on YouTube. Until next time, never forget
TIF.